The oldest mammalian relative was discovered in Majorca. It is up to you Sorberic predator similar to a dog. An international team of scientists described on the basis the fossils of one of the oldest known cousins of modern the mammals. The animal lived about 280 million years ago in Majorca. It was a bit similar to a dog, but had jewel teeth. Mammals are derived from mammalian reptiles from cripples of the therapists. Therapsida appeared on Earth about 200 million years ago. The pterops at first glance did not resemble too much mammals, but they had subtle qualities that we see in them today. In the new research, scientists have described Gorgonopsia, fossils belonging to the suborder of the Ptericides. From these works it appears that it is a predator of saber-tooth resembling a dog. The species has not yet received a name. Results and description of the research appeared in the journal Nature Communications. Paleontologists in Majorca have discovered a hitherto unknown species, the early Gorgonopsi. Gorgonops are more closely related to mammals than with any other live animals, said IQyh0 of the Field Museum, CO author of the publication. They have no contemporaries and although not they are our immediate ancestors, they are related to the species that were our direct ancestors, he added. The stones are 270–280 million years ago, and the oldest representative of Gorgopsis so far lived around 265 million years to this one. It's probably the oldest Gorgops on the planet, he says. Josep Fortuna of the Institut Català de Paleontology Miguel Cruz Font, ICP, in Spain, CO author of publications. Gorgonops were warm-up animals, as were modern mammals, but unlike most of them lay eggs. They were carnivorous and were the first to develop characteristic saber teeth. They were dominant animals in their ecosystems and were somewhat reminiscent of dogs, but without ears and fur. The fossils were discovered in Majorca. In the time of Gorgops, this island was part of the Pangaea supercontinent and was located in the area of the equator. The remains found belong to small or medium-sized animal, about 1 meter long. The very place of finding the fossils are quite unusual. The remains of Gorgonopsid was discovered in high latitudes, in Russia, or South Africa. Surprisingly, there is a large number of bones. We found everything, from fragments of the skull, vertebrae, and ribs to a very well-preserved femur. In fact, when we started these excavations, we didn't think we will find so many animal remains in Majorca, explains Rafael Matamales of Museu de Ciències Naturals, first authored the publication. Complete fossils allow researchers to reconstruct the appearance of the animal and learn more about his life. The creature looked a bit like a medium-sized dog, but this species didn't have fur or canned ears. It is the oldest animal, having long fangs resembling blades, which ever found, the Englishman said. This suggests that this species was in its time as the leading predator. Before the dinosaur age, there was an ancient era relatives of mammals. Most of them looked completely different than today the mammals. But they were really diverse and played many different roles. The environmental. The discovery of a new fossil is another piece of the puzzle explaining the evolution of mammals, explains the Englishman. Bird flu virus is getting closer to reaching potential the pandemic. The H5N1 bird flu virus that spread throughout the world is more effective in infecting people than previous strains. In the new research has found that a single mutation could allow it is even better to attack people and achieve pandemic potential. Dangerous strain of avian influenza H5N1 has appeared for the time the first home bird in China in 1996. In recent years it spread all over the world. It has reached previously untouched regions, such as Antarctica, which is home to penguins. Pathogen attacked the farm's poultry around the world, causing the need to kill hundreds of millions of pieces poultry. In the US, the virus also attacked cow farms, getting into milk. There have also been dozens of human infections in the United States. The H5N1 bird flu virus is rapidly spreading among animals in the US, which has made experts on standby with due to the possibility of gaining the ability to move from a man on a man. According to new research, such a jump could become significantly it is easier with just one mutation. And in some cases of infection in people in the US, the virus has shown exactly those types of mutations that make it better adapted to infect human cells and replicate, and they are so. Researchers point out that a single mutation alone is not enough for the virus to cause a pandemic. However, if the virus with this mutation joins forces with the virus of human flu, it could gain potential almost immediately the pandemic. The more people get infected, the bigger the likelihood of such a thing happening, says Ian Wilson of Scripps, the Research Institute in California. However, he adds that according to him the risk it remains low. The bird flu virus is constantly changing. There are still appearing new mutations that make people better. The cases of the US has shown that the virus is currently attacking mainly the lungs of people, but given fast mutation rate, little is needed for it to gain the ability to penetrate upper respiratory tract, which could allow it to move along the road air, such as seasonal influenza or COVID-19. Wilson and his colleagues studied IQyh0, a virus protein that allows it to bind to receptors outside the cells. It determines which cells can become the target of a virus attack. It is now H5N1 hemagglutinin binds mainly to receptors that they find in humans. It's deep in your lungs. This means that it can cause severe lung disease, but it is unlikely that it will get out of the body and move to others people. To do this, the virus would have to gain the ability to infect cells using nose and throat. Then he could spread quickly among people. The virus is capable of that. Until recently, it was believed that in order for H5N1 strongly bound to the receptors of these cells, multiples will be needed mutations, but Wilson's team showed in a recent study that came out in the journal Science, that for the current variant of H5N1, it is enough a single mutation. According to Jim Paulson, co-author of the publication, to gain this the features are not enough for the virus to be capable of triggering a pandemic. We think that this property is necessary, but importantly, not enough to cause the pandemic, he says. So that the virus can start to avalanche and spreading between people, other changes are also needed, but they are not he's well known. Paulson admits there are a lot of things they can't see. However, when the H5N1 virus acquires a mutation that allows it infect the cells of the nose and throat, we'll have a chance to evolve also others the changes. Theoretically, he could acquire all the necessary skills in one attack by exchanging genes with different variants of the virus. Debbie Van Riel from the University of Iersma in the Netherlands, which she compared the different variants of H5N1 virus. In his laboratory infected human nose and throat cells with variants of H5N1 virus from 2005 and 2022 RR. These studies have shown that a younger variant is much better associated with human with the cells. They also replicate better. That's the bad news. I don't think, however, the risk that the virus will turn into a pandemic is very high. This is Van Riel. But the fact that the virus better infects people will give it more opportunities, acquisition of additional mutations that increase its pandemic potential. Wilson's group considered simulation what would happen if the H5N1 variant started to move from human to human? How would he be very fatal? Among those who have been confirmed since 2003 infection with the virus, half died. However, the actual mortality rate of the reason for the infection may be lower. Many cases probably remained undetected, and the milder ones are often unnoticed by the system. Recent cases from the US show that of about 60 people be infected, almost all of them had mild symptoms. The researchers also believe that when viruses switch from binding to receptors deep in the lungs higher in the airways, they become less dangerous, albeit it is not known whether this will apply to H5N1 virus. Will the virus have pandemic potential? That's not known. Some researchers point out that the bird flu pandemic is inevitable. Others, the more optimistic ones claim that this pathogen is unpredictable and that there were other equally dangerous variants of the past, such as H7N9, which they died out without causing a pandemic. The remains of a 52,000-year-old mammoth revealed by a three-dimensional the structure of his chromosome. In 2018, in the Siberian tundra was perfectly found preserved remains of an Italian-year-old mammoth. From a piece of leather the animal was able to read its full genome and reconstructed the three-dimensional structure of its chromosomes, which were allowed to know the functioning the genes in them. An international team of researchers read the full genome and reconstructed three-dimensional structures of the chromosome of the Italian mammoth before 52,000 of years. This was possible thanks to the perfect preservation of the animal's body. It seems that the remains of the mammoth have undergone a natural process of freeze-drying, similar to that used for food preservation, also called drying sublimation. The conditions of the Siberian tundra 52,000 years ago allowed removal of water from the frozen body by sublimation of ice, i.e. ice passed directly from the solid to the gaseous state, without the liquid state. The three-dimensional structure of chromosomes gives insight into how the mammoth genome was organized and which genes were active in the skin tissue, from which DNA was extracted. The results and the description of the research appeared in the journal Cell. Mammoths, Mammuthus primigenius, freely they walked the earth during the last ice age. It is believed that they died out about 10,000 years ago, although some secluded populations, as per Rajev Island, has survived longer. Population from Rangla Island is estimated it existed 4,000 years ago. And because they lived in a cold environment, many their remains have been well preserved, though none compare to it relative to the analyzed find. The lyophilized remains of the mammoth females are from northeastern Siberia and was dug up in 2018. The occasion contained not only bone, but also skin tissue. The maintenance process allowed to keep the body in its great condition. The coat has been preserved on almost the entire body. We know that tiny fragments of ancient DNA can survive for a long time, Marcella said. Sandoval Velasco from the University of Copenhagen, CO author of the study. But what we found here is a sample in which the three-dimensional arrangement of these fragments DNA has been preserved for decades, so that we reconstructed the structure of the entire chromosome, he adds. It's a new kind of fossil, and its scale eclipses the China-ideal DNA fragments, because it has 1,000,000 times more sequences, he says. Erez Lieberman Aden of Baylor College of Medicine, CO author of the paper. It's the one also for the first time that a karyotype of any kind has been established for an ancient sample, he adds. A karyotype is a full set of chromosomes that found its in the cell. Knowledge of 3D genome architecture provides many additional information beyond its sequence. Most ancient specimens of DNA, it consists of very small, mixed fragments. Because DNA molecules, they begin to fall apart when the animal dies, but in this case, to surprise the researchers, the animal's chromosomes have been perfectly preserved. Armed with exceptionally well-preserved remains, the team scientists extracted DNA from a sample of skin taken from behind the mummy ear. Then thereafter DNA was analyzed using a method known as IQyh0 that can identify DNA sections that probably interacted with each other while the animal was alive. In ordinary DNA sequencing, its spatial is lost the structure. Imagine you have a puzzle of 3 billion elements, but you do not.
de soleil, pas de soleil, pas de soleil, pas de soleil.